Jesus spoke of turning the other cheek. But did you know he might have learned this from Buddhist monks? New evidence suggests that during his lost years, Jesus traveled to India and Tibet, studying ancient wisdom that would revolutionize his teachings. Imagine a young Jesus sitting cross-legged in a Tibetan monastery, mastering the art of meditation. Or picture him in Varanasi, discussing karma with Hindu sages. These experiences may have shaped the message that would change the course of history. Want to know more? Keep watching. Did you know that the Bible leaves us in the dark about Jesus from age 12 to 30? It's true. These missing years have puzzled scholars and believers for centuries. One moment, we see a precocious 12-year-old Jesus discussing Scripture in the temple. The next, he's 30 and starting his ministry. But what happened in between? This 18-year gap isn't just a minor detail. It's a massive chunk of Jesus' life. Think about it. These are the years when most of us figure out who we are and what we want to do. So where was Jesus during this crucial time? What was he doing? And how did these experiences shape the teachings that would change the world? Theories about Jesus' lost years are as varied as they are fascinating. Some scholars argue he simply worked as a carpenter in Nazareth, learning his father's trade. But others paint a much more adventurous picture. Could Jesus have traveled to far-off lands, studying with spiritual masters and absorbing ancient wisdom? One intriguing theory suggests Jesus journeyed to India and Tibet. Imagine him trekking through the Himalayas, learning meditation from Buddhist monks, or discussing philosophy with Hindu sages on the banks of the Ganges. It sounds far-fetched, but some researchers claim there's evidence to back it up. Other historians propose Jesus might have joined the Essenes, a Jewish sect known for their austere lifestyle and mystical practices. Could he have spent years in their desert communities, mastering esoteric teachings that would later influence his ministry? Then there's the idea that Jesus traveled to Egypt, studying in the mystery schools that were once the pinnacle of spiritual knowledge in the ancient world. Picture him unraveling the secrets of the pharaohs, delving into sacred geometry and alchemy. But why does any of this matter? Well, these missing years could hold the key to understanding Jesus' unique message. His teachings often diverged from traditional Jewish thought of the time. Where did these revolutionary ideas come from? If Jesus did travel and study abroad, it could explain the universal appeal of his message and its similarities to other spiritual traditions. Biblical scholars like Marcus Borg have suggested that Jesus' lost years were crucial in developing his spiritual consciousness. Borg argues that Jesus likely underwent profound mystical experiences during this time, shaping his understanding of God and his own role in the world. As we dig deeper into this mystery, we stumble upon an intriguing clue. An ancient Tibetan manuscript mentions a prophet named Isa, who bears a striking resemblance to Jesus. Could this be evidence that Jesus traveled far beyond Judea during his missing years? This tantalizing hint opens up a world of possibilities. If Jesus did journey to distant lands, what wisdom did he gather? How did these experiences transform him from a carpenter's son into a spiritual leader whose words still resonate today? As we peel back the layers of this historical enigma, we're about to embark on a journey that might challenge everything you thought you knew about Jesus. Our first stop, the mystical land of India, where ancient wisdom and spiritual practices could have played a crucial role in shaping the teachings of Christianity's founder. Imagine a young Jesus, not in Nazareth, but sitting cross-legged by the Ganges, deep in meditation. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But what if there was proof that Jesus spent years studying with Hindu sages, learning ideas that would later revolutionize the Western world? The theory of Jesus traveling to India during his lost years has gained traction among some scholars and spiritual seekers. They suggest that between ages 12 and 30, Jesus embarked on a spiritual journey that took him far beyond the borders of Judea. India, with its ancient wisdom traditions, could have been a crucial stop on this transformative odyssey. When we look closely at Jesus' teachings, we find striking similarities with ancient Indian philosophy. Take his famous instruction to turn the other cheek. This concept of non-violence and loving your enemies bears a remarkable resemblance to the Hindu principle of ahimsa, or non-harm. Could Jesus have learned this from Indian gurus? The parallels don't stop there. Jesus' emphasis on love, compassion, and forgiveness echoes core tenets of both Hinduism and Buddhism. His teachings on the kingdom of God within you align closely with the Hindu concept of Atman, the divine soul present in every individual. These connections raise intriguing questions about the potential influences Jesus encountered during his travels. One controversial source that supports this theory is the book The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ by Nicholas Notovich. Published in 1894, it claims to translate ancient Tibetan texts that describe Jesus' time in India and Tibet. While many scholars dispute its authenticity, the book has fueled speculation about Jesus' possible Eastern connections. If Jesus did journey to India, where might he have gone? Varanasi, one of the world's oldest cities and a hub of Hindu spirituality, is a prime candidate. Picture Jesus walking along the ghats of the Ganges, discussing the nature of the soul with Hindu sages. In Kashmir, another potential destination, he might have encountered Buddhist monks and delved into their meditative practices. What specific teachings could Jesus have gleaned from these experiences? He might have explored concepts like karma and reincarnation, deepening his understanding of cosmic justice and the eternal nature of the soul. The Buddhist emphasis on compassion and inner peace could have reinforced and expanded his own ideas about love and forgiveness. But here's where it gets really interesting. Some researchers claim there's tangible evidence of Jesus' presence in India. Local legends speak of a holy man named Isa, who bears a striking resemblance to Jesus. Even more compelling, ancient manuscripts have been discovered that mention a prophet from the West visiting India during the time of Jesus' lost years. These tantalizing clues suggest that Jesus' journey of spiritual discovery might have been far more extensive than traditionally believed. As we continue to unravel this mystery, our next stop takes us to the roof of the world, the mystical mountains of Tibet. What secrets might Jesus have uncovered in the land of snow and ancient wisdom? What if Jesus' ability to cure the blind and heal lepers wasn't divine intervention, but a skill he learned? The snow-capped peaks of Tibet may hide an answer that challenges everything we thought we knew about Christ's ministry. As we journey deeper into Jesus' lost years, we find ourselves in the mystical land of Tibet. Picture a young Jesus, not preaching to crowds, but sitting in silent meditation with Tibetan monks. It sounds unbelievable, But some researchers believe this could be exactly what happened. Tibet, with its ancient wisdom and spiritual practices, might have been a crucial stop on Jesus' journey of discovery. The region is known for its unique form of Buddhism, which focuses on the subtle energies of the body, mind, and spirit. Could Jesus have tapped into this knowledge to perform his famous healing miracles? Let's consider the similarities between Jesus' healing abilities and Tibetan energy healing techniques. Tibetan healers believe in manipulating life force energy through meditation and breath control. Sound familiar? It's not too far from the accounts of Jesus laying hands on the sick and curing them instantly. Could Jesus have learned these techniques from Tibetan lamas? But it's not just about healing. Tibetan Buddhism places great emphasis on meditation and achieving altered states of consciousness. Imagine Jesus spending years mastering these practices, learning to quiet his mind and connect with the divine. This could explain his profound spiritual insights and his ability to maintain composure even in the face of great adversity. Some researchers go even further, suggesting that Jesus might have encountered the teachings of Mahavatar Babaji, a legendary yogi from the Himalayan region. Babaji was said to have mastered the control of prana, or life force energy. If Jesus learned these techniques, it could shed new light on his ability to perform miracles like walking on water or multiplying loaves and fishes. You might be thinking this all sounds too far-fetched. But here's where it gets really interesting. Ancient Tibetan manuscripts mention a figure named Isa, believed by some to be Jesus himself. These texts describe Isa spending years studying with Buddhist monks, exchanging spiritual knowledge, and mastering advanced techniques. If these accounts are true, they could revolutionize our understanding of Jesus' ministry. His teachings on love, compassion, and inner peace might have been influenced by his time with Tibetan masters. His famous Sermon on the Mount, with its emphasis on inner transformation, bears striking similarities to Buddhist philosophy. As we peel back the layers of this mystery, we're left with more questions than answers. How much of Jesus' spiritual power came from his divine nature, and how much from years of rigorous training? Did his time in Tibet shape the unique message that would change the world? Our journey through Jesus' lost years is far from over. As we leave the snowy peaks of Tibet behind, we set our sights on another ancient land of mystery and wisdom. What secrets might Jesus have uncovered in the shadow of the pyramids? Let's find out as we explore his potential connection to the esoteric knowledge of ancient Egypt. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the hidden chambers of ancient temples, our journey takes an unexpected turn. The land of the pharaohs was more than just a cradle of civilization. It was a wellspring of hidden knowledge. Could Jesus have tapped into this ancient wisdom, unlocking secrets that would shape his future ministry? Imagine a young Jesus standing before the Great Pyramid, about to undergo a secret initiation that would forever change the course of history. It sounds like something out of a movie, but some researchers believe this might have actually happened. During Jesus' time, Egypt was a powerhouse of esoteric knowledge, home to mystery schools that guarded ancient wisdom passed down through generations. These mystery schools weren't your average classrooms. They were centers of profound spiritual and scientific learning, teaching everything from sacred geometry to alchemy. Picture Jesus walking through shadowy halls, surrounded by hieroglyphs and ancient artifacts, absorbing knowledge that had been hidden from the outside world for centuries. But here's where it gets really interesting. When we look at Jesus' teachings about death and rebirth, we see striking similarities to ancient Egyptian concepts. The Egyptians believed in the cycle of death and resurrection, symbolized by their god Osiris. Sound familiar? Jesus' own death and resurrection mirror this ancient belief in a way that's hard to ignore. Some theories suggest that Jesus might have studied alchemy in Egypt. Now, we're not talking about turning lead into gold here. Ancient alchemy was a spiritual practice focused on transforming the soul. Could this explain Jesus' ability to transform people's lives with his teachings? And what about sacred geometry? The Egyptians believed that certain shapes and proportions held divine power. Look at Jesus' parables. They're full of symbolism and hidden meanings. Could he have learned to encode spiritual truths in stories, just like the Egyptian priests did with their hieroglyphs? Now let's talk about rituals. Some researchers believe Jesus might have undergone secret initiations in Egypt, possibly even in the Great Pyramid itself. These rituals often involved symbolic death and rebirth experiences. If Jesus went through something like this, it could explain his deep understanding of spiritual transformation and his lack of fear in the face of death. Here's something that might blow your mind. When we look closely at Jesus' parables, we start to see connections to Egyptian symbolism. Take the parable of the mustard seed, for example. In ancient Egypt, the seed was a powerful symbol of potential and rebirth. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe Jesus was drawing on ancient wisdom to convey his revolutionary message. As we uncover these connections between Jesus and ancient Egyptian knowledge, it's clear that his journey of spiritual discovery was far more complex than we ever imagined. But our exploration doesn't end here. There's another ancient land that might hold clues to Jesus' lost years, a place where light and darkness clash in a cosmic battle. Are you ready to step into the world of Persian wisdom and see how it might have shaped Jesus' understanding of good and evil? Imagine a young Jesus, not in Jerusalem, but standing before a sacred fire in an ancient Persian temple. You might find this hard to believe, but some researchers think Jesus' ideas about good and evil could have roots in a religion far older than Christianity, Zoroastrianism. Persia, known today as Iran, was a melting pot of spiritual knowledge in Jesus' time. It was the birthplace of Zoroastrianism, a faith that saw the world as a cosmic battleground between light and darkness. Sound familiar? It should, because Jesus often used similar language in his teachings. When Jesus talked about the conflict between good and evil, light and darkness, he might have been drawing on ideas he learned from Zoroastrian priests. These priests, called magi, were known for their wisdom and prophetic abilities. You've probably heard of the 3 wise men who visited baby Jesus. Well, they were likely Zoroastrian magi. But the connections go deeper. Zoroastrianism teaches that humans have free will to choose between good and evil, and that our choices have cosmic consequences. This lines up surprisingly well with Jesus' emphasis on personal moral responsibility and the eternal impact of our actions. You might be wondering, could Jesus really have studied with Zoroastrian priests? While we can't say for sure, some theories suggest he did exactly that during his lost years. Imagine Jesus, far from home, discussing the nature of good and evil with these ancient sages. It's a picture that could change how we understand the origins of Christian thought. The influence of Persian ideas on early Christianity might be more significant than you realize. Take the Christian concepts of heaven and hell, for instance. While these ideas exist in Judaism, they're not as clearly defined as in Christianity. But in Zoroastrianism, they're front and center. The Zoroastrian afterlife includes a paradise for the righteous and a place of punishment for the wicked, concepts that bear a striking resemblance to Christian teachings. Here's something that might surprise you even more. The teachings of Zoroaster, the founder of Zoroastrianism, have some remarkable parallels with Jesus' message. Both emphasize the importance of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Both spoke of a coming judgment day and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. These connections raise fascinating questions about the development of Jesus' spiritual worldview. Could his time in Persia have helped shape his understanding of cosmic forces and human destiny? Did he integrate Zoroastrian concepts into his own teachings, creating a unique synthesis of Eastern and Western thought? As we uncover these surprising links between Jesus and ancient Persian wisdom, it becomes clear that his spiritual journey was far more complex and far-reaching than we might have imagined. But our exploration doesn't end here. We're about to take a closer look at how these diverse experiences might have transformed Jesus from a carpenter's son into one of history's most influential spiritual leaders. Are you ready to see how all these pieces fit together? What if the Jesus who emerged from his lost years was fundamentally different from the young man who left Nazareth? His journey across ancient lands didn't just broaden his horizons, it completely reshaped his understanding of spirituality and his own divine mission. As we piece together the puzzle of Jesus' transformation, you might find your perspective on his teachings forever changed. Let's recap the incredible wisdom Jesus might have gathered on his travels. In India, he could have learned about karma and reincarnation from Hindu sages. Tibet might have taught him meditation and energy healing techniques. Egypt's mystery schools might have revealed sacred geometry and alchemical wisdom. And in Persia, he could have explored Zoroastrian ideas about the cosmic battle between good and evil. Now imagine Jesus returning to Judea with this treasure trove of knowledge. How would it fit with the traditional Jewish teachings he grew up with? The contrast must have been stark. While Judaism focused on strict laws and rituals, Jesus had experienced a world of diverse spiritual practices and philosophies. This clash of ideas likely created a period of intense inner turmoil for Jesus. He had to find a way to integrate these Eastern concepts with his Jewish roots. It wasn't about rejecting his heritage, but expanding it. Jesus might have spent years meditating on how to bridge these seemingly different worlds. Some scholars believe Jesus found common threads running through all these traditions. The emphasis on love and compassion in Hinduism and Buddhism, for example, could have reinforced and deepened his understanding of Jewish teachings about kindness and mercy. The Zoroastrian concept of free will might have influenced his views on personal responsibility and choice. But here's where it gets really interesting. Jesus didn't just blend these ideas, he transformed them into something entirely new. His unique synthesis became the foundation for a revolutionary spiritual message. He took abstract concepts and made them relatable through parables and real-life examples. Think about it. When Jesus spoke of the kingdom of God within you, was he drawing on the Hindu concept of Atman, the divine soul in every individual? When he performed healing miracles, was he using techniques he'd learned from Tibetan monks? His teachings on nonviolence and loving your enemies might have been inspired by the Buddhist principle of ahimsa. This synthesis prepared Jesus for his ultimate destiny as a spiritual leader. His diverse experiences gave him a universal perspective that transcended cultural and religious boundaries. He could speak to people's hearts in a way that was both familiar and revolutionary. The Jesus who emerged from these lost years was no longer just a carpenter's son from Nazareth. He had become a spiritual master with a profound understanding of human nature and the divine. His message resonated not just with Jews, but with people from all walks of life. As we uncover more about Jesus' transformative journey, we're left with an even more intriguing question. If Jesus gained all this wisdom during his travels, did he share it all openly? Or were there some teachings too profound, too radical for the masses? In our next section, we'll explore the possibility that Jesus had secret, advanced teachings that he shared only with his closest disciples. Get ready to peek behind the curtain of early Christian mysticism. The Gospels tell us about Jesus' public ministry, but what if that was just the tip of the iceberg? Ancient texts hint at a hidden world of mystical knowledge Jesus shared only with his inner circle. These secret teachings could completely change how we view early Christianity. Imagine Jesus gathering his closest disciples in a secluded place away from the crowds. He's about to reveal profound truths that go beyond his public sermons. This isn't just speculation. We have evidence suggesting Jesus had a set of advanced, esoteric teachings reserved for those ready to receive them. The Gnostic Gospels, discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945, offer a tantalizing glimpse into this hidden world. These controversial texts paint a picture of Jesus as a spiritual master with knowledge that transcends ordinary understanding. The Gospel of Thomas, for example, emphasizes that the kingdom of God is within and that inward seeking leads to divine union. This aligns closely with Eastern mystical traditions, suggesting Jesus might have brought back wisdom from his travels. But why keep these teachings secret? Some scholars believe Jesus returned from his journeys with advanced spiritual concepts that were too radical for the general population. These ideas might have challenged the religious authorities of his time, potentially putting his mission at risk. By sharing them only with his most trusted followers, Jesus could preserve this wisdom for those truly ready to receive it. You might be surprised to learn that Jesus potentially taught meditation techniques and breath control. These practices, common in Eastern traditions, allow practitioners to transcend physical limitations and enter higher states of consciousness. Imagine Jesus instructing his disciples on how to quiet their minds and connect with the divine presence within, a far cry from the public image of him simply preaching to crowds. Even more shocking, some of these secret teachings seem to touch on concepts like reincarnation and the eternal nature of the soul. These ideas were considered heretical by the religious authorities of Jesus' time. Yet, in private, Jesus might have spoken about the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, emphasizing the importance of purifying one's karma for spiritual liberation. Recent discoveries have shed new light on Jesus' mystical side. The Dead Sea Scrolls reveal connections between Jesus and the Essenes, a Jewish sect focused on spiritual purification and higher consciousness. This suggests Jesus might have been influenced by their teachings, incorporating them into his own advanced spiritual practices. Perhaps most intriguing are the Tibetan manuscripts describing a figure named Isa, believed to be Jesus, who studied with Buddhist monks and learned the secrets of enlightenment. If true, this would represent a powerful exchange of spiritual knowledge between East and West, with Jesus as the bridge. As we uncover more about Jesus' secret teachings, we're left with a profound question. If Jesus possessed this advanced spiritual knowledge, where did it come from? Was it purely divine inspiration, or could there have been another source guiding him? In our next section, we'll explore a surprising possibility that Jesus might have received ongoing spiritual guidance from an unexpected source, even after beginning his public ministry. Imagine a young Jesus wrestling with his divine destiny and human nature. Now picture a comforting presence guiding him through this struggle, the spirit of his father, Joseph. It sounds incredible, but some mystical traditions suggest this might have been Jesus' reality. We often think of Joseph's role in Jesus' life ending with his early death. But what if death wasn't the final chapter in their relationship? Ancient spiritual teachings hint at a profound possibility that Joseph's spirit continued to mentor Jesus from beyond the grave. This idea of ancestral guidance isn't unique to Christianity. Many cultures believe that our departed loved ones can still influence and guide us. In Jesus' case, this spiritual connection could have been especially powerful. Joseph, after all, was more than just Jesus' earthly father. He was the man chosen to raise the Son of God. So how might Joseph's spirit have shaped Jesus' journey? Some spiritual sources suggest that Joseph's presence helped Jesus stay grounded in his human experience. Picture Jesus grappling with the weight of his divine mission, feeling overwhelmed. In these moments, Joseph's spirit might have appeared in dreams or visions, offering fatherly love and reminding Jesus of his earthly roots. Joseph's influence could explain one of the most striking aspects of Jesus' ministry, his ability to balance his divine nature with profound human compassion. Think about it. Jesus performed miracles that showcased his godly power, yet he also showed deep empathy for human suffering. Could this perfect balance have been the result of Joseph's ongoing guidance? You might be wondering, if this spiritual connection was so important, why isn't it mentioned in the Bible? The answer might lie in the nature of these experiences. Mystical encounters are often deeply personal and difficult to explain. Jesus might have kept these spiritual communications private, sharing them only with his closest disciples. But here's where it gets really interesting. Some spiritual traditions suggest that Joseph's guidance went beyond just emotional support. They propose that Joseph's spirit might have helped Jesus unlock his full spiritual potential. Imagine Joseph teaching Jesus advanced meditation techniques or guiding him through transformative spiritual experiences. This ongoing spiritual mentorship could explain how Jesus developed such profound wisdom at a young age. It might also shed light on Jesus' periods of solitude, like his 40 days in the desert. Were these times of intense communion with Joseph's spirit preparing Jesus for his public ministry? As we uncover more about this potential spiritual connection between Jesus and Joseph, we're left with a fascinating picture. Jesus, the Son of God, receiving ongoing guidance from his earthly father's spirit. It's a reminder that even the most extraordinary spiritual journeys can be grounded in the loving bond between parent and child. This revelation about Joseph's continuing influence brings us to the end of our exploration of Jesus' lost years. We've journeyed from India to Tibet, Egypt to Persia, and even into the realm of spirit. As we wrap up, let's consider how all these experiences might have shaped the man who would change the course of history. As we wrap up our journey through Jesus' lost years, we're left with a profound realization. This isn't just a story about one man's quest for wisdom. It's a universal tale of spiritual seeking that crosses all boundaries. Jesus' travels remind us that true growth often means stepping out of our comfort zones and embracing the unknown. Think about it. Jesus, a young carpenter from Nazareth, possibly venturing to distant lands, studying with sages and mystics. It's a journey that might inspire us to look beyond our own familiar surroundings for wisdom and truth. As Gandhi said, live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. You might find yourself wondering, what would my own spiritual journey look like? Could exploring different traditions deepen my understanding of life's big questions? Jesus' example shows us that spiritual growth isn't about staying in one place. It's about constantly seeking, learning, and evolving.